There is a moment, quiet, persistent, impossible to argue away, when a voice inside you stops whispering and starts insisting. You have felt it. Maybe it came while you were dissecting an argument at the dinner table, or dismantling a position nobody else dared to challenge, or sitting with a friend's deepest secret, carrying it like a sacred trust. That voice was not random noise. That voice was your future knocking. The law is not for everyone. It never claimed to be. It is demanding, relentless, and utterly unforgiving of mediocrity. But for those built for it, those who are wired, almost constitutionally, to pursue truth, argue with precision, and stand unmoved under pressure, law is not merely a career. It is a calling, and callings do not politely wait forever. So before you let your mother convince you to wear a stethoscope, or your father to pick up an engineering textbook, or your uncle to sketch blueprints, let us talk about whether you are already, in every way that matters, a lawyer. Number 1, you are not afraid of big books. Let me be plain with you. Law school will drown the reader who reads for pleasure alone, but the one who reads with hunger, who tears a text apart looking for what the author meant, what they implied, what they carefully avoided saying, that person thrives. If you have always been the kind of person who goes to a bookshelf not because someone told you to, but because something in you demands it, pay attention. The library is where lawyers are made long before they ever see a courtroom. Number 2, you need every angle of the story. The greatest lawyers I have ever seen or studied do not accept the first version of events. They probe. They ask the uncomfortable question at the end of a long, seemingly settled answer. They understand, intuitively, that truth rarely lives on the surface. It is buried in the contradiction, the hesitation, the detail the other side hoped you would overlook. If you are someone who cannot rest until you have turned every stone, the law needs you, desperately. Number 3, you argue, and you argue well. Yes, this is on the list. But understand what arguing well actually means. It is not volume. It is not stubbornness. It is the ability to construct a position so logically airtight, so evidentially sound, so persuasively delivered, that a reasonable person cannot dismiss it. If you have spent your life doing this, at kitchen tables, in classrooms, in the comments section of things you felt strongly about, you have been practicing law without a license. It is time to make it official. Number 4, you stand for what you believe. This is where law separates from performance. Any actor can argue a position in a script where the outcome is already written. A lawyer stands in a room where the outcome is uncertain, where the evidence may be thin, where the forces against them are real, and still fights. If you have ever held a position not because it was popular, but because you believed it was right, and held it even when the room turned against you, you have the spine this profession demands. That quality is rarer than intelligence. Protect it. Number 5, you carry yourself with confidence. Confidence in law is not arrogance. It is the quietly devastating assurance of someone who has prepared more than anyone else in the room and knows it. Judges notice it. Juries respond to it. Opposing counsel fears it. When challenged, does your voice steady rather than shake? When the room applies pressure, do you bend or do you hold? If you hold, if something in your core refuses to collapse under fire, you are already thinking like a lawyer. Number 6, your integrity is non-negotiable. The legal profession has a word for ethical failure: disbarment. It does not negotiate. It does not offer second chances wrapped in apologies. The law is built on trust. The client's trust in you, the court's trust in your representations, society's trust in the entire system. If you are someone for whom honesty is not a policy but a principle, if you would rather lose with your integrity intact than win by compromising it, the law is one of the few professions that will actually reward that quality. Most do not. Law does, because it must. Number 7, you notice what others miss. There are people who walk through a room and see furniture. Then there are people who notice the crack in the third floorboard, the date on the document that does not match the testimony, the hesitation in a witness's third sentence that everyone else missed. If you are the second kind of person, if details attach themselves to your memory with an almost involuntary precision, this is not a quirk. This is a superpower. Law school will sharpen it. The courtroom will deploy it. And at the exact moment it matters most, it will be the detail you remembered that turns the entire case. Number 8, you love the discipline of debate. There is a difference between arguing and debating. Arguing can be messy, emotional, circular. Debate is structured. It demands that you listen, that you respond to the actual point made rather than the point you wished had been made, that you organize your counter-argument with precision before you deliver it. If you have ever experienced the particular intellectual satisfaction of a well-constructed rebuttal, the law has a place reserved for you. Number 9. Time is a tool you actually understand. Law school is 3 to 5 years of sustained, suffocating intensity. Not the kind of hard that looks impressive in retrospect, the kind of hard that tests you on a Tuesday afternoon when there is no audience, when the case file is enormous and the deadline is tomorrow and your social life is a memory. The lawyers who survive it, and more importantly who master it, are people who understand that time is not infinite and wasting it is not a personality trait they can afford. If discipline is already built into how you live, law will feel less like punishment and more like purpose. Number 10. You are a keeper of secrets. A client does not come to you at their best. They come when things have collapsed, when the confession they need to make could cost them everything, when the truth they are carrying is too heavy to hold alone. Attorney-client privilege is not a technicality. It is a sacred compact. If people in your life have always found their way to your door with their hardest truths, if you have never betrayed that trust, you already understand something that cannot be taught in a classroom. It can only be lived. You have been living it. The law will ask things of you that other professions will not. It will ask you to be present when people are at their most desperate. It will ask you to argue with everything you have for a client whose case is difficult and whose odds are worse. It will ask you to stand in rooms of power, judges, adversaries, systems, and still find your voice. But here is what the law will give you in return: the ability to change outcomes that seemed certain, to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, to stand at the intersection of justice and reality, and push, with every argument, every precedent, every carefully chosen word, towards something better. Not every sign on this list needs to describe you perfectly, but if 5 or more of them felt less like a list and more like a mirror, stop listening to the noise around you. The law is not just a career option, it is who you already are.